When an organization has a mission as huge as helping every single street-living child, that's a high-wire act. The work is so important, but the dangers are just massive. So how do you actually protect the kids you're trying to save? In this explainer, we're going to go deep inside the safeguarding policy of Street Kids Direct to see exactly how they built their system of protection.
Until the last child. That's their mission. And right there, that tells you everything you need to know about how high the stakes are. It's a promise, right? A promise to be relentless. But it also means they're working in some of the most dangerous places for kids on the planet. So the question remains, how on earth do you keep children safe on those front lines?
Well, it all starts with making a promise. And not just a promise to help, but a promise to protect. This isn't some optional extra, a nice to have. It's the absolute non-negotiable foundation for everything they do.
But to really get why a policy like this has to be so airtight, you have to look at the reality these kids are facing. It's one thing to talk about policy like it's some document in a filing cabinet, but the dangers are very, very real.
So, okay, how real are we talking? Let's put a number on it. According to UNICEF, a staggering 50% of all children in Guatemala, and that's a key country where Street Kids Direct works, live in what's called multi-dimensional poverty. Now, what does that mean? It means they're missing the basics: protection, school, healthcare. And that makes them incredibly vulnerable to exploitation. That one number, 50%, that's the world this safety policy has to exist in.
In an environment like that, just having good intentions, it's not going to cut it. Not even close. Protection has to be professional, it has to be structured. So Street Kids Direct built their policy on 3 core pillars, kind of like building a fortress of safety. Let's break down exactly how they did it, starting with Pillar 1, the right people.
It's pretty simple, really. Any system that's built on trust starts and ends with who you let through the door. Every single volunteer, every staff member, every partner, they have to be checked out and checked out thoroughly before they ever get near a child. And this isn't your average background check. Nope. They call it the vetting gauntlet for a reason. It's this whole multi-stage process that's designed to weed people out. You've got the detailed application, independent references they actually call, tough background checks, and then mandatory safety training that you have to keep renewing. Believe me, nobody's just ticking a box and getting through this. And check this out. This is a global standard. It doesn't matter where you're from. If you're a volunteer from the UK, you're getting a DBS check. From the US, a Mobilize My Ministry check. On the ground in Guatemala or Honduras, you're getting the highest level official checks available there too. No shortcuts. No, we'll do it later. Absolutely zero exceptions.
Okay, so that brings us to the second pillar, the right rules. Because once you have the right people on board, you have to give them a super clear playbook for how to act. And that's where the code of conduct comes in. It covers every single interaction. And the really important thing to get here is that these rules aren't just there to say no, no, no. They're all about creating transparency. When you have clear boundaries, everyone knows where they stand. It protects the kids, for sure, but it also protects the staff and volunteers from misunderstandings or, even from false accusations.
And the policy gets really, really specific, especially around something like physical contact. The do's are pretty straightforward. Be out in the open, be public, and always be responsive to what the child is comfortable with. The don'ts are just as clear. No secretive or isolated situations, no touching of private areas, and absolutely no affection that a child doesn't want. It's just common sense, but it's written down so there's no confusion.
They also get right into the tricky stuff, like digital communication. The rules are clear. Messaging is for logistics, like arranging a meeting. It's not for secret, personal chats. There are even time limits, nothing between 8 at night and 8 in the morning. And look, the whole point is that face-to-face connection is always the priority. Tech is a tool, not a replacement. The policy also goes a level deeper. It actually trains staff to spot really sophisticated threats, like grooming. And by defining what that is, that process where an abuser tries to build trust to do harm, they're not just reacting to bad things after they happen. They're being proactive. They're training their people to spot the danger signs way before things can escalate. Okay, so you've got the right people, you've got the right rules, but what if something still goes wrong? What if a concern gets raised anyway?
That brings us to the final and maybe the most critical pillar of all, the right response. Because honestly, having a plan for the worst-case scenario is what proves you can actually trust the system.
If you are worried, don't ignore it. Report it. That's the mantra. That's the core of their entire response system. The whole policy is built to encourage a culture where everyone, staff, a volunteer, even a kid, feels totally safe to raise their hand and say, hey, something's not right here, without any fear.
And the moment a report comes in, a clock starts ticking immediately. They use this simple traffic light system, red, amber, green, to kick off what is basically a race against risk. If it's a red alert, meaning immediate danger, action has to be taken within 4 hours. 4 hours! An amber concern gets a response within a day. This just gets rid of any confusion, there's no gray area, just a structured, urgent plan.
And let me be clear, every single concern, no matter how small it might seem, gets written down and is immediately handed over to a specially trained person, the designated safeguarding lead. No exceptions. This makes sure that every single report is handled by a pro, handled consistently, and with the total seriousness it deserves.
So, there you have it. The right people, the right rules, and the right response. These three pillars aren't separate things. They all lock together to create one complete system. And every part of that system is pointed at a single goal, making sure safety always comes first.
So when they talk about their promise to protect, it's not just one thing. It's this whole layered approach. It's about actually listening to and respecting kids. It's about a relentless hiring process and constant training. It's about having crystal clear rules that are non-negotiable. And it's about having a rapid response system ready to go. You could call it a defense in depth.
So, after all that, you look at all this structure, all these rules and systems and procedures, and you might be thinking, okay, is this just another corporate document, something written by lawyers to tick a box? It's a fair question.
But the answer has to be no. Because for every single child out there facing incredible poverty and danger, this whole system, it's their shield. This isn't just a policy, it's a promise. A promise that someone is not only fighting for them, but fighting to keep them safe. And it really leaves you with a big question, doesn't it? In a world that's full of good intentions, maybe this level of professional, structured protection should be the only standard we accept from anyone who's trying to help the most vulnerable among us.